Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Owen Finch, and I'm here with.
AJ Talent, and this is our did Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad win or lose? And the point of this is, if you haven't seen the other videos, is we go through the seasons, and in this case, the El Camino movie, and talk about if based on like everything that happened with everything they've been through, if they won or lost. And just to be clear, this isn't necessarily on like if they die in the end. It's because like there are characters we've gone over who die, but like they go out on their terms, So it's like it's we consider that a win based on like how like if they consider if they won or lost, kind of pretty much.
Yeah, I think if we did half the shows, we're probably gonna watch and review and stuff. If we did they win or lose on them? I think all the characters. If we just did it if they just lost based off them dying, all the characters would lose.
I mean, you pointed it out. Like all my favorite characters end up dying. Yeah. So well, pretty much all my favorite characters will die.
I mean, I know Jesse's not your favorite, but this is a bit of a spoiler.
I mean, he's up there. He's up there. So
he's the only. I think he's the only one that survives. So,
yeah. So this whole video process has been nuts, and we were originally going to do this over a year ago. Owen, you explain what's up. What was up with that?
So yeah, we finished Breaking Bad I think in like the fall of 2019 because from what I remember, I think not the fall, the spring of 2019 because you came up like right after that and we finished Death Note, and I don't think we had the idea yet. I think we waited till like we finished Breaking Bad and Death Note, and then we came up with the idea. I think I came up with the idea we should take a character and like see if they won or lost. So we did Walt first because he was like, one of the main characters in Breaking Bad. Then we did Hank, and then we did the video. Did El win or lose? Because did Light?
Who won El or Light?
Yeah, we did that one on the CM Brothers channel. Because we couldn't really do them both separately. We had to kind of do them together because the whole show was Light versus El. So then we were going to do Jesse, but then I think first I had so many trips and stuff. I had gone to North Carolina and Florida, and obviously we weren't going to be able to. I think we tried to meet up in Florida, but then it didn't really work out.
Right, and also like I was like just starting college around this time.
Yeah, so then we came back and we had kind of heard it anyways when Breaking Bad was ending that there was going to be a Breaking Bad movie. At first, we didn't know what the Breaking Bad movie was going to be. We thought it was going to be like a retelling of the Breaking Bad show, but then we found out it was going to be like a Jesse movie where everything took place after season 5, pretty much. So we were kind of like, why don't we wait to do the Did Jesse win or lose? Because I have a feeling El Camino will really answer that question, so we don't want to have to come back and do this video again. Where we basically say the same stuff. So yeah, we did that one. We waited a while and then we got too busy with trips and school and stuff because AJ like had just started school then we went through and like did like the season reviews of the Breaking Bad stuff and
right because we wanted to do that to like catch up. That took up a lot of time. Yeah. You got busy with trips. I got busy with school. Then 2020 happened. Just all of 2020 was a mess.
It's a mess.
And then here we are, almost 2 years since we finished Breaking Bad, and almost a year since we wanted to, and been over a year since we just wanted to do this video.
Yeah, and then I think hopefully this video will get up today, but it might not. But today, the time we recorded, it's 2:41. It just turned Monday, March 29th. We had recorded this video. We were like in the middle of recording it and everything. And then I think we were doing it Thursday, and then we kept getting interrupted with phone calls and audio issues, and then.
And then eventually got to the point where it's like, and it sucks too because we got to like we were like at the very end too. We were like the last stretch, and then your sister came over and you wanted to like see her, and I had to get to class, so it was just like, well, fuck us.
Yeah, so it's like we're thinking the universe does just not want us to make this video because what happened even before we started this.
Like this in Pulp Fiction, the universe does not want us to finish these two movies.
Yeah. Because then, like, before we even started recording or anything, like, we had so much issues on my audio end that we thought we weren't doing it then. So,
yeah. But here we are. Sorry to ramble a bit, but wanted to share our pain with you.
Yeah, just to kind of go through what it was like to try to get this video out. We're hoping, by the way, like, after we do the last few videos we're gonna do, that it doesn't happen again. But we'll see. Fingers crossed, I guess, right?
Right.
But yeah, let's talk about...
Now let's begin with did Jesse Pinkman win or lose? And we'll start off from I guess we'll talk a little bit about where he was at like prior to season 1.
Yeah, because we have like, even though they give us like an idea like where he was prior to season 1 based off the things that he goes through like in season 1 with the character background they tell us. So yeah, I guess prior to season 1, he had at least graduated high school, which they do joke about in El Camino. We've talked about it where Walt actually mentioned that he could just get like his GED or whatever. But Jesse's like, why would I need that? I got my diploma. So I thought that was still... I still think that's...
And Jesse was like, well, you're an asshole. Like, you saw me get it.
Yeah. But he was still kind of like not really succeeded in life all that much, because he was still like, he was pretty much a druggie who was addicted to mainly meth and cocaine. Well,
no, I don't think he did cocaine yet.
Oh yeah, it was just mainly he was mainly...
I think it was weed and meth.
Yeah, he was addicted to meth and weed, and then he didn't really have the respect of his parents because he's the typical like junkie who says he's gonna get his life together, but then doesn't, and they give him like many chances. So it's basically that, like,
right. We're like, and I think they mentioned like before, like he's like screwed them over, like he's stolen from them and lied to them, and all sorts of things.
Yep. And then he really wasn't like, because of this, it's affected like his academics because he didn't really care all that much about school or anything like that. I mean, there's literally like a test that he took from Walter White in chemistry, because Walter White was his chemistry teacher, that like he didn't really try on. He just basically like drew all over it and stuff, and Walt won't apply yourself on it. I mean, he did actually try in school the one time, where he talks about in shop, like he made like a jewelry box for his mother, and he just made it like he didn't really try on it, but his shop teacher actually motivated him to try on it.
Yeah. Well, I think the story was like at first like it was an assignment, and he just like bought something from like a store, and the teacher like just asked, "Is this the best you can do?" Like, not like insultingly, he just like asked him, and then that kind of like made Jesse like want to actually like try for once, and he did, and like it turned out really good to show like Jesse like had a lot of potential and a lot of talent. Like he could do a lot if he just applied himself. But then the crux of his character is in the story is he put all this effort into this, but then he sold it just for some weed.
Yeah, that's pretty much like the entire story of Jesse Pinkman pre-Breaking Bad. We see like in the miniseries, like I don't know if the band would have like made it big, but he was actually decent at like playing the drums and making a band with his friends, but all they cared about was like, but yeah, he didn't really apply himself to it. All he cared about was really just doing drugs and all that type of stuff. Yeah, he was pretty much...
And like, the whole reason he became like a meth cook was like, it's like, well, he set himself like, to make money, and also to like smoke his own product. And like the make money thing isn't like bad, but like it's like, like obviously everyone wants to make money, but it's like that's like all he wanted, So I feel like that really was him like not applying himself. He's just like, I'm just gonna do this just to make money. Like he didn't want to do anything like he actually wanted to do.
Absolutely. I always say too, you never do anything for the money too. You have to have. I mean, money's a good reason, but that shouldn't be the only reason you do something.
Right. Exactly. That's what I mean. Like money isn't a bad motivation, but like when that's your only motivation, it's kind of, you're screwing yourself over, and that's kind of what Jesse did.
Yeah, I don't really think you're trying all that hard too. If you only do something for the money. Like I feel like
but also like give Jesse some credit. Like he was in like season 1, he was what, like 23.
Yeah.
And like everyone in the show even calls him like a stupid kid. So it's like, give him some credit. He's just like, he's fucking in his early 20s. He's like, he's a real screw up. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like gonna completely justify him. I'm just saying, like, it's like Walt says later on, like, he's so young, he can like do something. He can like, it's not too late for him to actually like turn his life around and do something.
Absolutely. So then we see when we first meet him in season 1. And then also, I think
sorry, before that, my point just now about him, he can like turn his life around and do something. I think we both kind of agreed on our point that it was Jesse, because Walt. We've talked about like the worst thing that ever happened to Jesse was meeting Walt.
Yep.
And I think we both kind of agreed where it's like Jesse, if he never met Walt, probably would not have suffered as much as he did. But he probably wouldn't have got a happy ending. Like he probably would have ended up, continuing cooking meth. He would have either got caught by the police and just spent the rest of his life in jail, or he would have just got like shot at some point.
Yeah.
But because he met Walt, he lost his girlfriends. He got the crap kicked out of him like so many times. He had to live in fear. He ended up killing people. Ended up being a slave for months. But at the end, he was able to like start his life fresh.
Absolutely.
So it's like we both kind of agreed. It's like, Jesse like suffered more because he met Walt, but he got a better ending than he would have otherwise.
I do want us to talk about it. Actually, I know we did this video before and I talked about it right away, but I forgot this time. I want to talk about it again. Since we were just talking about preseason 1 stuff and we haven't really talked about the season itself yet. No matter what happens, no matter what answer we say, I think we're gonna. In terms of, if we take a look outside the show and peel behind the curtain a little bit, I do think, regardless, Jesse won because he was never meant to make it past season 1.
Oh yeah, he was gonna die in season 1.
But
I'm pretty sure Vince Gilligan even said it was going to be something like he just like falls in a wood chipper or something.
Yeah. So Vince Gilligan, though, like this is one of the definitions of a breakout character, where he said he just had so much fun writing Jesse's character that like he survived longer than he.
Yeah. I think you said this in the first like attempt too. It was like Jesse was going to be one of the first characters to die, but he ended up being one of the only characters to live.
Yeah, that's just funny how that happens.
Yeah.
But then I also and no matter what we say, like Jesse Pinkman, the character, outside when you,
like in a meta sense, he won.
Yeah, but then we also questioned a little bit if Aaron Paul won because all the stuff we talk about with Jesse Pinkman suffering through. And getting the crap kicked out of him happens to Aaron Paul, I guess, in real life.
Right, yeah. There were plenty of times where like they weren't like an actor was like beating the shit out of him. And like they thought they were acting, but they were accidentally actually like hurting him.
Yeah, like
in the desert, like he was like hurting Jesse, but like he actually like ended up like giving him a concussion in real life.
Well, like doing the Fly episode when Walt hits him with the swatter. I guess Bryan Cranston accidentally like really nicked him with the swatter. So. Oh yeah.
So we're like pretty much every season is like Jesse getting kicked out of him, and also Aaron Paul getting kicked out of him.
I still, they haven't talked about it behind the scenes, but I still believe, like, some point Aaron Paul legit got the crap kicked out of him in El Camino. I would not.
Yeah, somehow. Like he didn't even really get beat up during the movie, but like I wouldn't be surprised if like they had like a deleted scene where they just had everyone like beat him up just cause.
That makes me question if Aaron Paul was like, yeah, I'm not taking any crap kick at this time. Like I'm only here for this one movie. That's it. Like,
right. I think he was like a producer on the movie too. So he made very sure that there was no like punching him or anything like that.
Yep. I always say too, like he finally got. I think it's hilarious too that Aaron Paul when he was kicking the crap out of Bob Odenkirk, or best known now as Saul, like when he found out that Brock poisoned him and stuff, he was probably pissed that like he got to use a
Wait,
stunt double.
the way you said that was funny. Like you said, you misspoke. You said when he found out Brock poisoned him.
Oh, my bad. I meant when he found out Brock got poisoned and he was like involved in it and stuff like that.
No, I just find that funny. Like Brock, the 8-year-old kid, poisoned Saul Goodman, and then Jesse beats him up.
Yeah, but I think
it turns out Brock was Heisenberg.
I think it's hilarious though that I bet Aaron Paul was pissed though when Bob Odenkirk got to use a stunt double when he didn't. Like,
oh yeah.
I do question if how much he legit kicked the crap out of that stunt double now that he got to do the shit.
Yeah, he's like payback.
No, and then also though we also talk about how it's a win though too because even he was still like a decent actor. He had been in like he was in him and Giancarlo Esposito did something together like pre-Breaking Bad. Like I think it's only like a scene. But Breaking Bad's like what got Aaron Paul noticed in the film world pretty much because he won all these awards and stuff. And
yeah, I'm pretty sure he won like 2 Emmys from Breaking Bad.
Yep. So he did win becoming famous, but yeah, he didn't really. But he got the crap kicked out of him along the way.
Right. So anyway, that's enough about the meta stuff. I guess we'll go back to. So yeah, we talked about pre-Breaking Bad. He was kind of like disappointed his parents. They didn't like trust him. They were kind of like estranged.
Yeah.
He didn't really see his brother. He kind of felt like inferior to his brother. Like he felt like his brother was like the favorite. We find out later in season 1 that's not quite accurate, but we'll get to that. And then he was pretty much just going around cooking meth with like these, scumbags. And hopefully not getting caught by the police.
Yeah. I don't really. So yeah. I guess we could talk about when we first see Jesse. He nearly did almost get caught by the police. I feel like they would have definitely made it more specific, but I don't think he had ever actually been caught by the police. He's probably come close like that, where he's even able to escape like just in the nick of time.
Yeah.
But Walt, when Walt partners with them, I do think we should talk about too. We didn't really talk about it a whole lot, like in the last video. I feel like we shouldn't ignore it. That in the beginning of the show, it looks like Jesse's the one that's doing the bad things and doesn't really care about it, but then Walt's the one that's only doing these bad things because he finds out he has cancer and needs to make the money and stuff. So we're meant to think, that Walt's the good guy in this case that's just doing bad things, but Jesse's really doesn't care as much, and he's like a bad person because we don't really know about
right. And then we kind of find out like over time it's like Walt like really like revels in like like his giant ego and just like having power.
Yeah.
And Jesse like has a real soft spot for kids. He doesn't like getting them involved. He doesn't like hurting people in general.
Yeah.
He just wanted to like make some money.
Absolutely. So I do think that's kind of cool, like how they tell that story in the first season.
And like at the beginning, it's like Walt blackmails Jesse, and like it's kind of like we don't really. Walt doesn't know what he's getting himself into, but really it's Jesse who's like, oh man, poor guy.
Yep. And I think he finally saw. I would say like there was a little bit of victories in season 1. Like I think one of the victories, is like he finally saw he could finally make the money because that's why he said he was doing it. He finally saw he can make money in the business via Walt's meth because it was like the purest meth ever.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff. And then, but then it's also a loss because then they get into the situation with Emilio and Crazy 8 where where they get into like a fight with them and Walt inadvertently kills one of them, so they have to kind of make a decision of
he ends up killing Emilio in episode 1 with the gas. Although like that's not like I mean like that's technically Walt's first kill, but also it's like it was really like it was self-defense, it was instinct, and like it was kind of indirect, like he just like he just used the gas to like escape and then like shut the door.
Yeah.
So like I don't think So that's why like he has such trouble killing Crazy 8 because it's more like premeditative and not just like self-defense.
Yeah, and Jesse, has to like dispose of Emilio's body, and he doesn't do it properly because he was supposed to, melt him in the acid, and he did it in his bathtub, which.
Oh yeah. Sorry, that's another thing I kind of like we didn't really talk about last time. It was I remember like he went to like the store to get like the plastic bin.
Yep.
And like he was trying to like sit inside of it to like see if like a human body could fit in, and he kind of just like started like joking around and like flopping around.
Yep.
And I think that was one of the scenes that kind of highlighted like he's really just like a dumb kid, like like he really doesn't even know what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like first episode you kind of like he's kind of like a criminal, like he's I don't feel bad for this guy. But then, like season 1 really showed he's just kind of like a lovable dork, like a lovable moron. Like he doesn't like he's not trying to hurt anyone. He's just stupid.
Yep. And then I think when the job when Walt's and Jesse go their separate ways temporarily because Walt's basically done with this business. I do think too we do see that Jesse keeps his word on like giving because he's not just a junkie who just takes the money. He makes sure, like, everyone gets their share. Like, if you remember, after Walt and Jesse go their separate ways, he makes sure to give Walt his money that he's owed.
Yeah, and also, when he first showed up at the house, like, the first thing he said when Walt was like, what are you doing here? He was like, just, wanted to see if he wanted to talk, because, like, we're the only people we can actually talk to about what happened.
Yeah.
So, like, that was, like, yeah, so, like, he went there to give him the money. And, but it's also, like, he wanted to make sure Walt was okay. But you can clearly tell, like, he had some issues with, like, what they did. And, like, so, like, he was very, like, upset, like, with what happened.
Yeah.
So, just kind of both showing that both, like, weren't cool with, like, murdering someone.
Yeah. And then, we see all the struggles, because Jesse ends up smoking his own product. And because of the effects of the meth, he thinks that, like, the police...
I think he gets paranoid, and, like, he thinks, like people are, like, coming to kill him.
Yeah. So this caused him to like go live at his parents. I think
like a couple days, maybe a week.
Yeah, I would say a week. And this is when we see all the backstory we've talked about with his family. I do think, like, in a sense, I don't think he realizes it then, but like he sees that like how much his parents care about him and stuff because like even though his brother's like this highly academic student and everything like that, like they still talk about him because they're worried about him.
Because Jesse was like upset because that they don't trust him, and like he thinks his brother's a favorite, and then his brother kind of tells him like no, like trust me, all they talk about is you. He's like they're always worried about him.
And then this is kind of like when we first see that Jesse's a good person because the maid finds weed in his room. They think that it's his, and we're meant to think that it's his. So they pretty much throw him out because they don't want to deal with him anymore because this was
right.
Like,
before that, we should say like they because before we said like Jesse like was like constantly lied to them and like they were like done with him, because they just been lied to so many times. But they were like thinking about taking him back because they were just worried about him.
Yeah.
So it's also showing like they do love Jesse, like his parents do love him because they were like they wanted to like him to get better.
And they instantly think that like the weed is his because they've been lied to so many times, so they pretty much just
you feel bad for Jesse in this moment because like he really did want to get better, like it wasn't his fault this time.
Yeah.
But also it's like he kind of dug his own grave by lying to him so many times,
Yeah, absolutely. And then we find out that he actually took the bullet for his he took the blame / bullet for his brother because it was really his. And I think that was like the first time we saw that he was a good person because he didn't want like his brother to follow in his footsteps and his parents to find out that it was
his brother says like, hey, thanks for taking the fall for me, and like he's like, hey, can I have that back? And then Jesse puts it on the ground and stomps it and he's like, you don't need that.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm glad like he's a good brother being like, listen, don't do what I do.
Yep. And then after this, pretty much Jesse ends off in a loss because when him and Walt partner back up together, um, because they killed Crazy Eight and Emilio, they're pretty much stuck only selling like meth locally. There's no way for them to make more money. So Walt wants Jesse to find like a high meth dealer to sell the product.
Yeah. Someone who's like higher up and like with more connections.
Yeah, and he tries to sell it to Tuco, and then Tuco basically beats the crap out of him, and he's in the hospital like almost the rest of the season.
And kills the meth. So
yeah, so and then but then he also gets a little bit of a victory because not only does Walt go back there, he also gets like didn't he get like Tuco to like give him money to pay for his medical bills and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, he went there and he's like, I want the money for the meth you took, and also some like extra money for like my partners like suffering in like medical expenses.
But then they also kind of end off in a loss because they start to see that Tuco is pretty much nuts. To
put it lightly.
Yeah, and because they were like afraid at first, because they weren't really able to meet with their quota of cooking meth. So this is what caused them to switch to the methylamine cook. That's exactly what they call it, but it's basically the blue meth that we see the rest of the season, pretty much. They give Tuco the stuff, and then Tuco, he pretty much beats the crap out of one of his own guys for no reason, pretty much. Like, he was actually sticking up for him. Like, just remember who you're working for, and like sticking up for him. And Tuco, I guess that one little thing like pissed Tuco off, and he just beat the crap out of him. So
Tuco was like, you think I need defending from you, and then beat him up.
So the end of the season's kind of a loss for both of them because Jesse and Walt are like mainly for Jesse, are like feeling for their lives that like Tuco's gonna like kill them next. So I do think that is like pretty cool. So I would say overall, like if we look at Jesse season 1, like he probably starts off losing and doesn't really like he does little things that win, but overall it's a loss.
Right, yeah, because this season, you know, he partnered up with Walt, which he didn't want to do. He had to end up like dissolving someone in his bathtub, which ruined his room, or ruined like his like I guess it's not his roof, like his ceiling, I guess. Got the crap kicked out of him twice by Crazy Eight and by Tuco. Ended up in the hospital, and now he's like has to fear for his life because the Tuco is like so like just like unstable.
And then also he kind of ruins like the final trust of his parents in this season. But also the victories comes is he's making money just like that he wants.
Oh, and also this was the last time he sees his brother actually.
That we know of, anyways.
No, because he only sees his parents like twice.
Yeah.
After this.
Yeah. Well, it's also tough to say because we don't see his brother ever again because of ages and things like that, you know, because the actor stayed.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the real world reason is like the character like aged like more than the show. But but because of that, like he never sees him like after this. I'm pretty sure this is the last time.
Yeah, pretty much. We also talked about too, like another victory is like he's the first one to kind of sympathize with Walt about why he's cooking meth because of his cancer, and we talked about because he was close with his aunt and stuff like that, and like she took him to all of his.
Yeah, we find out the reason he has like the house he has because when his aunt, like he took care of his aunt when she was dying from cancer, and she like left him in the house.
Yep. So I think there is victories here, but it's mainly losses. It's probably one of those cases where like the losses outweigh the victories. So going through season 2, pretty much they're still feeling for the lives of Tuco, and they get Walt and Jesse get kidnapped by Tuco, and I think this is kind of the first time we see that Jesse. We could talk about whether this is a loss or a win, because Jesse is just seen as like a negotiation tactic with Walt. Walt kind of uses Jesse as a negotiation tactic because pretty much they all.
Well, no, Walt does and Tuco does.
No, I'm saying like people see people see it as a negotiation tactic to get Walt, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I thought you meant like Walt was like gambling Jesse's life. I'm like, no, it's Tuco wants to kill Jesse, and then
yeah.
But then Walt's like being like, no, I need him.
But I make the argument it could be seen as a victory or a loss, because the victory is,
like that's what keeps Jesse alive. But also, it's like he constantly has his like life threatened to get the Walt, pretty much.
And I also would say like no one really sees Jesse of value. It's mainly Walt they just see that's valuable. Is also what I would say.
Exactly. And that's actually a big thing in season 3 and 4 with Gus.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to. But so Jesse, like, he feels unimportant. He's constantly getting his life threatened. And he gets a crap kicked out of him all the time. So, he's having a good time.
In real life and in the show.
Yeah, I know. Right? So,
but I think a victory, though, that comes from the Tuco thing is...
Tuco kicks the crap out of him, but then, Walt distracts him, and then Jesse hits him over the head with a rock, wrestles him, and shoots him in the gut.
Yeah.
And then, like, kicks him into, like, a little ditch. Saying like, who's the bitch now? So it's kind of like Jesse got to like get his revenge on Tuco and like prove that he ain't taking that shit.
And I think also too like he got to kind of play a hand in killing Tuco because of this that Hank was able to win the shootout with Tuco.
Right. Yeah. Tuco was injured and like exhausted during the shootout with Tuco.
You mean with Hank?
Yeah.
But then this ends up really hurting Jesse, though, getting kidnapped by Tuco because Hank was looking for Walt. And they thought, because Walt had told his Skylar and stuff that, that like Walt was buying weed from Jesse. So,
he didn't say from Jesse, but she like found Jesse's like number and like went to his house and stuff.
No, don't you remember? Because, like Jesse called the house like in one of the first seasons and stuff, and Jesse.
Well, yeah, he called the house. I'm just saying, like Walt didn't like say Jesse like sold him weed. She just figured it out, like
No, because she confronts him about it like in the hospital, and Walt says like he said he sells me weed. So like he said he put.
Okay. I'm just saying like it's not like Walt went out of his way to like ride out Jesse. What's my point?
Right. Well, I think he was just saying because he called the house, he obviously couldn't bullshit around it. So he said that Jesse.
Right. I got you. I just wanted, I didn't want it to be like, well, get where it's like, hi, Skylar. By the way, I'm one of my students is selling me weed.
Yeah. So then, pretty much Hank goes on a search party for Walt solo, and he goes to Jesse's house, and even though he says he just wants to find his brother-in-law, the parents think like Jesse did something because the DEA agent showed up to the house, so they like went and searched his house and they found the meth lab they were building like in the basement.
Right.
And this is and this causes Jesse to be thrown out of the house.
Because it's like I guess like the aunt left it for him, but like the parents still have like some like ownership of it.
Yeah, and this is where like. For the one time, like where Jesse lying to his parents really hurt him, because this is the one time like it wasn't his fault in the sense that right,
like there was nothing that you do. You got kidnapped by a drug lord.
Yeah, and then had he not been kidnapped, like they wouldn't have even found out about the meth lab or anything like that.
Right, exactly. So he got kicked out of his house, and like he has nowhere to go now, pretty much.
Yeah, we talked about it like. That episode where we find out he gets kicked out of the house is like he goes through the like hell in that episode. Obviously, he goes through worse later, but I remember he got thrown out of the house. He only has like enough money because Walt and Jesse split the profits, but like he didn't have enough money to like get like an apartment or anything like that. Like,
right.
And then he's left on the streets like the whole night. I believe he goes into he gets his bike stolen by like some criminal. He has to spend the whole night in a porta potty, and then I remember like where they were keeping the RV with like not the junkyard guy, but like some other guy. Like he pretty much has to like hop the fence, and I think he ends up tearing his clothes a little bit. And I remember,
is it the scene where like he jumps the fence and like he falls through the porta potty?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I remember he tried to go like visit his friend, who he was in that band with. We talked about, and it kind of showed like, even though like they were still friends, like his friend like was more successful than him in the sense that like he had a job, kids, and everything, where Jesse was still kind of like struggling.
Yeah.
So that really showed like how much in trouble Jesse was. So I would say that whole episode is a loss for him because
Yeah.
he goes through hell in that episode. And then so I would say that's a lot. Why don't you talk about like the person he meets that starts out as like a little bit of a victory?
Right. Okay. So Jesse, with the little money to get an apartment, he goes apartment searching and he meets Jane. Of course, we all know who she is. And she actually takes a chance on him. He kind of like, without saying like I'm a meth dealer, he's like, my parents kicked me out. I don't got anywhere to go. I need this chance. She takes a chance on him because we find out later like she is also like a recovering addict.
Yeah, and she's probably she's pretty much been through the same thing he has.
Right. So she takes a chance. She gives him a chance, and they end up like kind of in a relationship. And Jesse is like actually like really happy for a while. Like he he's still cooking with Walt like on the side, so he's making a good amount of money.
Yeah.
And the relationship at this point is like really like sweet. Like they're like watching movies. They're gonna go to art museums. Like it's not like it's like a sweet relationship. It's not just like they're doing drugs yet.
Yeah.
And especially later when Jesse's like crying and he like what he says like I loved her more than anything. Like you really like get that here, like he really loved her.
Absolutely. I think we talked about too. This was like we talked about in the unseen version of this video, where like this was like the first relationship that Jesse had, because we've seen before like Jesse just kind of pretty much only dates like hookers and stuff, because we meet whose name I can't remember again because we didn't do the.
I think her name was Wendy.
Yeah, yeah. He will occasionally stay at Wendy's house and stuff like that. He really didn't, because later on, like what's a little bit of a loss is like Jane was too embarrassed to like introduce Jesse to her father because she she just saw him as like a tenant and stuff like that, and obviously because Jesse's using drugs and stuff like that, she thought her father would be judgmental of him and stuff. So Jesse, when he tries to like confront her about it,
I don't think it was the drugs thing. I think it was like she just didn't want to like tell her dad like the person who's like renting out the apartment is like her boyfriend.
Yeah. Jesse even says like I feel when Jesse tries to confront her about it, he can't really like explain how he feels about her at that moment because
right.
He's never felt this way.
And also, it's like what Jane says kind of like hurts a bit. Where she, he's like, why didn't you tell him about like us? And she's like, what do you mean us? Like implying like they're not like in a relationship, and that kind of hurt Jesse a bit.
Yeah.
Like she apologizes later, but I don't know. I feel like you kind of get the feel that like Jesse cares more about her than she cares about him.
Absolutely. But then the relationship starts to take a very dark turn. This is actually another what if video we can make. What if Combo didn't die? Because that's kind of what starts the relationship to take a dark turn in a sense, because Jesse.
Yeah. Combo's death is like a big domino effect. Yeah.
So yeah, Jesse loses one of his best friends, Combo, and
yeah, because he has his friends start selling their meth for him.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before Combo's death, we should talk about how Skinny Pete gets like robbed of his meth, and Jesse has to Walt kind of like makes Jesse like take responsibility. Like he gives him a gun and tells him to because it's like they don't want people. He doesn't want people thinking like you can just steal their meth, steal their product.
I think we've talked about this when we did the season reviews too. this was kind of like the first time I noticed, anyways. Like we watching the show again, like even whether Walt knew about it or not, like he was still kind of manipulating Jesse a little bit. This was more unknown manipulation.
Yeah, I feel like season 1 and 2, it's like Walt's like just unconsciously manipulating him.
Yeah.
And then like later seasons, it's very clear like he's doing it on purpose.
Yep.
Like it's more like Walt wants this thing, and like he thinks Jesse, and he wants Jesse to do it, and he kind of like ignores what Jesse wants.
Yep. Why don't you talk about too, like that moment where Jesse has to go take responsibility for it?
Yeah, this is the whole situation. So Jesse breaks into their house, and they're not there, but he finds like their kid who's like malnourished and like dirty and like, you know, like he can barely talk, but he's like clearly like he's young, but like he's old enough where he should be able to like talk more and like, you know, react more. So like he's clearly like not going to school or anything.
Yeah, because they probably can't afford it.
Yeah. And or you know, even if they can't, they're just not even bothering, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, look at his room. Like he was just like a dirty mat.
The whole house was dirty.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, it's clear like the parents aren't like taking care of the kid.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I think Jesse, like when they get back, Jesse's like, what kind of mother are you? She's like, I'll be whatever you want if you know give me my meth back. So it's clear like she doesn't like give a shit about the kid.
Yeah. I think too. This is a big scene because this is like, even though like we knew he cared about his brother, this is the first time that we see Jesse has like a soft spot for kids.
Right, yeah, because you know, obviously, like, before, like it was his brother, like it's, you know, it's his brother, and now like we see, like no, he has a soft spot for like kids in general. He's like kind of involved in all of it.
Yeah.
And before the parents get back, Jesse like is feeding the kid and like spending time with him, trying to like get him to talk a little bit.
Yep. And I remember too, like.
And like when the parents come back, he like takes the kid like back into like the back room and like tells him not to come out.
Yeah, I remember when he comes out too, like this kind of like causes Jesse like to like relent, threatening the parents and stuff. Like, I think actually I talked about when we did the show, like even though Jesse's the one that's being threatened and holding the gun, we find out like he's actually like the best person, like in like morally in that room. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. He didn't have much competition, besides the small child.
Well, that's the type of thing that people think about, though. Like, it's cool to see that perspective because if we only saw the story like without like if we didn't know anything about Jesse, we would think Jesse's probably the worst person since he's holding down the parents with a gun and all that type of stuff
in front of their kid. Yeah. Or like it was just like written it like as a book and like you didn't have like visual.
Yeah.
And then like you see the picture and like, oh, okay, never mind.
Or if we like heard about it in the news or whatever.
Right, yeah. Heard about this in the news. Like local drug dealer like holds, you know, addict parents at gunpoint. So again, it reminds me of this like clip I saw on YouTube. It was like Mr. Fantastic like using a wooden gun to like scare Magneto.
Yeah.
And someone in the comments did like local genius holds Holocaust survivor at gunpoint. Because I don't know if you knew that, like Magneto, like he was like a Holocaust survivor. It was anyway. Yeah. So Jesse he's like trying to keep the kids safe and like get the money back in the meth, and like he gets like knocked out for a little bit, and like the mother. She ends up like killing the husband because the husband's like just like calling her a skank, and Jesse is like screams like no, like he doesn't even like want him to die.
Yeah.
And you know, she passes out from meth, you know, like just drug use. He you know, he calls like the police to like get the kid out of there, you know, takes his stuff, and you know, I like the last thing he says to the kid, he's like, have a good life.
Yeah.
Or, you know, make sure you have a good life. You know, Jesse basically saved that kid's life. So, I don't know. It's kind of showing like bad circumstances, but good guy deep down.
This is like a win and a loss for Jesse. the win is that he saved the kid's life, like you talked about, but the loss is like he had to see. He kind of got. I don't think he got like PTSD, but like he had trouble like dealing with the fact that he saw like, the husband die and all that type of stuff.
Right. Well, I guess the point of this was to just show like, because early on we don't see much of it, but like this is like the point when you started seeing like Jesse's a good guy who's just doing really bad things.
Yeah. But it's also a victory at first because like everyone thinks that Jesse did it, so like Walt and Jesse are kind of like, at least on the street level, anyways, like the head honcho and the drug dealer.
Well, it's like when Walt does bad things, Walt kind of like revels in it. Like he enjoys it because he makes him feel powerful.
Jesse
So like that's like Walt doing a bad thing is a victory for him, but Jesse doing a bad thing is like a loss for him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Jesse gets credit for like the kill of like killing the guy.
Yep.
On the street, so like Jesse starts getting like respect. Like later on, people like kind of realize like Jesse wasn't actually the one who. Oh no, not this guy. The other guy who gets killed in the junkyard.
Yep.
Yeah. Jesse gets credit for the kill, like on the street, and like people start respecting him more.
Yeah.
But later on, people find out like Jesse wasn't the one who killed him. So like then people are like, oh, never mind, he's fake, you know.
Yeah. I remember too.
So kind of showing like Jesse, like for a while, like was getting a lot of credit. Like he was getting what he wanted. He was getting money. He was getting respect, and he was getting all the mess he wanted. But then later on, it really like turned for the worst.
Yeah, and I don't really think.
Jesse gets like happy moments, and then shit hits the fan. Is the point?
I think too. Like you could make the argument too. Like we don't really see like how much of an effect that it has on Jesse. Like afterwards, but like Jesse like feels bad. I think it doesn't really feel good that he's getting credit for killing somebody too.
Yeah, he's not happy he's getting credit for killing someone, but it's kind of like he likes the respect people have, I guess.
Yeah. Then it leads to the all the combo stuff where
combo shot by a kid who's like being told to do it by local drug dealers.
Yeah, and then Jesse the death of Combo really takes effect on Jesse. I think we've talked about this where like it looked like he didn't care, but I feel like I saw it in a different perspective where like I think Jesse cared but felt responsible for his death because they went outside like the typical streets to like sell the meth. So Jesse feels responsible in a way for Combo's death.
Right, because I remember like when I first saw the scene when like Skinny Pete calls and like leaves a voicemail saying like, "Hey man, I'm sure you got your own thing, but I wish you were at the funeral for Combo." I kind of took it as like Jesse's like too preoccupied with like his own like issues to like care about his friend. Because Walt even points it out later, like when Jesse's like trying to avenge Combo. He's like, Jesse, you didn't do this months ago when it first happened. You're only doing it now. It's like, do you really care that much about your friend? So I kind of feel like I kind of agree with Walt. Like Jesse, like didn't care in the moment and is only caring like after the fact. But I kind of agree with you. You said where it's like he probably feels really guilty to like to attend the funeral because he probably sees like he got him killed in a way.
Yeah, that's how I saw it as. But then, this is kind of like I said, this is why I say we should do a what if Combo didn't die, because this is like Combo's death kind of is what caused, I'll let you talk about it too, Jesse and Jane's relationship to become like worse. Want to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. So Jesse kind of starts like using more, and just like overall like he's less happy than he was. And when Jane kind of catches him like using it, well at first Jesse's actually really sweet because he's like, hey look, I know you're an addict, I don't you're sober, I don't want go away, I don't want you to like get the urge to like do it.
Yeah.
And she almost left, man. She put her hand on the doorknob, and just like if she walked out that door, it just the whole show would have changed. And like, granted, Jesse wasn't saying like I'm breaking up with you. He was just saying like I want to be in a relationship with you, but like I don't want to like hurt you, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't want to cause you to go back to doing drugs.
Right. But Jane, she went back into the room with Jesse and started using drugs with him.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought up like how happy they were before is like because the relationship is completely different from this point. Because before it's like they were going on like actual dates, and, like he was making her breakfast and like like sweet stuff. But after this, pretty much every time they see each other, they're just like using drugs.
Yeah. So this is kind of like the relationship's actually making both of them worse.
Right. Yeah. Before they were like they were making each other better, and now they're just making each other worse because Jesse got her back into drugs, and Jane started giving Jesse like more serious drugs.
Yeah.
Like she got him to try heroin.
Yep.
So yeah, they were really like making each other worse off.
And then like we found out like later on like Jesse like Jane starts to kind of like voice for Jesse because obviously this leads to later when like obviously too this relationship affected Walt's life too. I know we didn't really talk about it, but it wasn't a topic then because had they not been using drugs, like Walt wouldn't have like they almost missed the deal with Gus, and Walt wouldn't have missed the birth of his daughter.
Yeah. So Jesse's like negatively hurting like everyone around,
and I believe too.
Gus doesn't respect him because like remember like when Walt meets with Gus, like Jesse shows up and like he's high. So Gus like originally like wasn't even gonna take Walt because he thinks he's like he doesn't like the people he like associates with.
Yeah.
So this pretty much shows like no one like actually like considered Jesse like like reliable or like worthy.
Yep. And then when it's time for like Jesse to get the money that he's owed, Walt refuses to give it to him. Because he basically to protect Jesse.
He's pissed off because like Jesse made him like miss Holly's birth.
Yeah, but also to kind of protect, I think that, and also to protect, I think Jesse a little bit because I honestly do agree with Walt. At that point, if Jesse had got that money, like I think Jesse would have died. I think like because obviously like because he probably would have gotten even worse drugs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, we find like when we're not there yet, but when Jane dies, I think we talked about this like in the first draft of the video, but it was really cool. Like Vince Gilligan had like an interview, talk show or whatever, talking about Jane's death, and he was talking about how like he considered it like it was like 75% Walt like looking out for Jesse because like this girl was gonna get Jesse killed. And like 25% was like, this girl's a threat to me, so I need to get rid of her.
Yep.
And then like the talk show, so it's like, oh really? I considered it like the opposite, mostly Walt like trying to like protect himself, and only a little bit like trying to help Jesse. And I really like what Vince Gilligan said, where it was like, death of the author, like it's like that's my opinion, but like you guys can like consider whatever you want. Yeah. Which I really like that because, like I said in the first like attempt of the video, which we had to stop. I don't like it when like an author like completely tells you like this is how it is. There's no room for debate. But I don't like it like the guy who made the director for the Inception. He said like he like doesn't like commenting on any of like his movies. Because he thinks like if he says anything, like people are gonna take that as fact, and like there will be no more room for debate. Like so, like he said, like the reason he doesn't like comment at all, Inception, is because he doesn't want people to like think one is more true than the other. I don't like either. Like I don't like it when an author is like just like takes control and is like this is how it is. If you say anything else, you're wrong. But I don't like it when it's like too like just out in the open. I like it when it's like an author can like give his opinion on his own product. So I really appreciate Vince Gilligan being like, this is how I see it, but that's not necessarily right. Like me being the creator doesn't like make me more right than you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, a little tangent, but I like his approach to like storytelling pretty much.
This is how I think this is why we like him so much, because you could see Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, like so many ways. Like my uncle, he still likes it, but he hated it just because of how big of a piece of crap Walt became at the end of the series.
Yeah, it's so funny because like some people are like Walt did nothing wrong. Like some people like cannot admit Walt did it. Like people like it was completely fine that he poisoned Brock. It was fine that he put a bomb in a nursing home, that he killed Mike, that he like did all these horrible things. Like people are like, given his situation, I completely understand it. And there are some people who are like, fuck Walt, like immediately, because they're like, he's a piece of shit.
And that's fine. Like you could have those opinions.
Right, yeah. I'm more in the middle. I'm like I don't hate. I love Walt as a character, but like, yeah, he's a bad person.
Yeah, like I can see the perspective of what, like, you also, when we talked about Walt poisoning Brock, I think we talked about it before, like, you understand it because there was literally no other way he could kill Gus, but like I can't accept it, like, obviously, because it's a poison.
Right, yeah, like it's like he poisoned the kid. Like no matter the circumstances, you shouldn't have poisoned the little kid. Because, like, remember, Walt's like, don't worry, I knew the correct amount to give him. But what if he was wrong? What if he was off by even a little bit? Like, he would have murdered a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what if he inadvertently, like, put a little too much in or something?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's the same thing we talk about, like, where, like, have you seen this fall? Where Jimmy inadvertently gets his brother killed?
Oh well, I hope you've seen Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, because you said that.
Yeah, but I know you have. But
well, I know. I'm just saying, whoever's watching the video.
Yeah, hopefully you saw it. But like in a sense, like you can understand why Jimmy did what he did to. Well, I think in the moment he was doing it to just screw over Chuck, but then it ended up kind of inadvertently killing Chuck, because obviously it led to like everything else that happened after the show.
Right. This could be a whole like separate video on like, you know, like what makes a character like, you know, we'll probably make that in the future, like what makes a character likable or hateable or whatever.
But I think the point is, like, I do like that Vince Gilligan like is in the middle. Like he'll give comments about his work and about how he sees it, but that's not right or wrong. He lets you see what happens in the show the way you want to see it happen, or the way you feel. But anyhow,
yeah, because there are plenty of things where it's like I completely disagree with your opinion and what you take away from the show, but like you're not wrong, you know.
Yeah. So then, Jesse goes through like you really see that Jesse and Jane, because when Jane finds out like how much money Jesse was supposed to get, I think it was like $50,000 or something like crazy like that.
Yeah, it was a lot. And then Jane, like you were saying, kind of becomes like the voice of Jesse, where like she like gets him to like threaten Walt and like get his money.
Yeah.
And and like when Walt hands over the money, like she's the one doing all the talking.
Yeah, because we talked about it before. Like I think if it was only Jesse in that room, like I think he would have listened to reason. And
yeah. Well, I don't think he probably wouldn't have like tried to threaten Walt at all, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And then like, you know, they get the money and they're like, we can do whatever we want now. We can, like do all these things we've only dreamed of before. We can go anywhere.
Yep.
Before this, like Jane's dad like saw her like walking out of Jesse's like room like in the morning. So like he kind of like figured that they were like a thing, so he stormed in, and then he saw like the drugs, so he got really pissed off.
Yeah.
And like Jane agreed to like go to like
rehab.
Like, you know, back to like rehab tomorrow, but like she had to like square things up with her job and like, you know, make sure, you know, like prepare.
Yeah.
So you know, then that's why they threatened Walt to like get the money and get out of there. And Jane and Jesse were like, we're gonna get clean so we don't like blow all this money on drugs. But let's, for all the drugs we've got right now, let's just do it all tonight, you know?
Yeah.
Which that's real like drug addict mentality where it's like, I'm gonna get clean, but first let me just do a bunch of drugs.
Yeah, it was like the thin like yeah, it was really it really showed like it shows how much it's bad to be an addict because we've talked about before in the last video like you think too we've seen how lucky people get. Well, I haven't seen it, but we hear how lucky people get. Like, it makes you realize how lucky Jesse got and stuff. Because like that they should have just walked away from that temptation. Because that one last temptation, obviously we find out late. But that it also cost Jane her life.
Oh yeah, for real. Listen, I've known people where I'm like, I tell them, you're gonna die. You know, like if you keep doing what you're doing. And like, they don't get it, It's like, that's a real thing. Like, people don't understand, like, you could actually die at any point from doing this.
Yep.
So it's kind of funny that, like, a show about drugs and, like, how happy making drugs made someone is, like, is showing you, like, how shitty drugs really are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, it is cool. I think it also teaches a lesson, like, avoid that temptation because this is what could happen if you
this is easily like the worst Jesse's addiction's ever been because I mean I guess one upside from Jane's death was like I know Jesse like he used after this but like he was definitely a lot less like he never got to like this point again.
Yep.
And like so like even though it wasn't like immediately even though he did use after this was kind of like the point where he started to get better.
Yeah.
At least with his drug addiction. Like he had some issues besides that, but like after this point he started to get a lot better.
And this really causes like this scene right here like really hurt other people. Didn't just hurt them, it also hurt other people because it caused Jane's dad to cause it the air raid or the airplane crash at the end of the season, which affected many, not just like those people's lives on the plane, but like families, because obviously they have families and stuff. They had to deal with the loss and everything too.
Yeah. And like I'm pretty sure like 200 people died or like 100 something. And when Jesse gets back from rehab, because Walt takes him to rehab, Jesse kind of like, both Jesse and Walt are like dealing with the guilt of like they were the cause of this giant plane crash because like they accidentally killed Jane and like that affected Jane's dad and Jane's dad ended up like being so grief stricken he couldn't like correctly direct the planes which ended up making them crash.
Yeah.
So they were like dealing with the guilt of causing such a major like accident.
And it affected
Walt was like trying to double down, being like, "I'm a good person." Like, no, this isn't my fault. Or like, he's like trying to like make up for it. Jesse doubled down and was like, "No, I'm the bad guy. Like, this is my fault."
Yeah.
Which is funny because this is like the complete opposite of what happened later on.
Yeah.
Walt sort of doubles down on all the bad stuff he does.
Yeah. And I think too, what's cool about this is like we talked about before, like. Usually in this moment, you try to become like a better person, but Jesse just realized he's the bad guy. He basically realized he's the bad guy and didn't really try to become better for it. He just realized that that's what it is.
Right. Which I mean, not to this extreme, but I feel like we've all kind of been there a little bit, where it's like we mess up, but like we don't really want to like fully like we don't want to like accept it, so we just kind of like we're like yeah whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's not quite what Jesse's feeling, but like it's it's similar, I guess.
And I think we talked about it when we did the season reviews. By the way, we're in season 3 stuff now, so before we get there, season 2, I think it's definitely a loss. Like,
for sure. Like probably the biggest loss, or like the second biggest loss, like overall.
Yeah. So then, now in season 3, I think what I liked about like. Usually people think, like, if you become a drug addict, if you get clean, your life instantly is going to get better. That's, like, the picture they like to tell you. But that's not exact. I feel like in season 3, we got to see that wasn't exactly the case because, like, Jesse not doing drugs all the time and stuff, like, in a sense, like, kind of caused him to have to, like, live in the moment of the sadness and the guilt of Jane's death and all the people in the airport.
Right, yeah. Because, like after she died, like, he, like, Walt found him, like, in, like, a house with a bunch of other... Like he was like using drugs to like kind of like forget about her.
Yeah.
But when he gets back and like he's clean, he's like he's just constantly listening. He's like curled up in a ball in his house, like listening to her voicemail.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we kind of forgot about this. Jesse ends up getting his old house back, like his aunt's old. Because you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I like talking about this scene. So he does try to like meet with his parents. And it's like very awkward because they see that he's clean and trying to do better. But I think it's kind of like one of those things where like he's kind of burnt the bridges with his parents, so there's kind of like no going back. And I don't think we talked about it, but their parents probably don't really know how real he's actually trying to get his life together because they've been, duped so many times by this.
Right.
So it's kind of like he's burnt his bridges, and he finds out he's putting the house on the market, and yeah, this scene is like really good because Jesse uses the reason that he got thrown out of the house because he has Saul pretend that he has Saul go in there with like an unnamed client, which is him, and point out that the meth lab was there, and basically uses the blackmails them using the meth lab to get them to lower the price down so he can afford it.
Yeah.
And I really like the scene when he pops in and the owners are like, "Wait, what are you doing here? The new owner's gonna be here any minute." He's like, "I'm going inside. He like shows the keys that he bought the place too." Like,
yeah. So pretty much, like he pretended to be someone else and was like, "Hey, there's a meth lab here." Oh, gee, I wonder how he knew about that. And then he ended up buying the house. So that was smart on Jesse. Really showed Jesse's pretty smart when he wants to be.
Yeah, people completely mistake this scene, by the way, because they think behind the scenes Kim's the one that pointed out the meth lab. It's like, that's nice to think about, but you're completely missing the point. Like, Jesse's the guy that pointed this out. Like, are you guys really not going to give Jesse that type of credit? Like, it wasn't Kim had nothing to do with this. Like,
yeah.
At least without watch. I'm gonna say this now, and we're gonna find out it was. But no, it was Jesse's the one that pointed this out to Saul, and that's what led to.
Well, yeah, because of course Jesse was the only one who knew about it. So of course, he probably just told Saul, and yeah.
Yeah, but like people in the comments of that video, like say, I bet Kim's the one that pointed this out. It's like, did you watch the show? Like,
I know, right? Yeah, some people are a little too desperate to better call Saul.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't think we talked about it, but when Jesse finds like Jane dead, like that's probably one of the saddest scenes where like he's like trying to give her CPR. Because keep in mind, like we as the audience know like Walt was there and like let her choke out. But for Jesse, he woke up and like she's already dead, like she's choked out.
Yeah.
And like he's like trying to give her CPR and like he's crying. So like that's he wakes up, she's already dead, and like but he's like still trying to like save her.
Yeah.
And like I said, what he said, like I loved her more than anything else. Yeah, that was really sad.
But then continuing season 3, I think Jesse, what we talked about is he finally finds that he's good at something because he's able to get like at least with the pseudo cook anyways, and he's able to get like Walt's he's able to get almost a Walt's purity level of meth using the pseudo cook, and he finds out that he's actually like good at something, which is something he's like never really felt before. And I think too something we got to talk about, like that's different later, is Jesse. In season 5, it's Walt that wants out. No, it's Jesse that wants out, but Walt keeps talking him into it. And in season 3, it's completely different, where Jesse's trying to get Walt to go back into cooking meth, but Walt wants none of it.
Right.
I do think that's...
Yeah, this is, because of, like I said, like the reverse, where Jesse's like really doubling down on like being a bad guy.
Yeah.
And Walt's trying to like do better because of...
Say that again. Walt's trying to do better because of...
I said in like season 5 and Jesse season 3, they're kind of like accepted that they've done a lot of bad things and are doubling down. Whereas in season 3, Walt feels guilty about the plane crash, so he's trying to do better. In season 5, Jesse feels responsible for getting that kid killed, so he's trying to like stop what they're doing.
So then he tries to get like his own meth business startup like via the street level. But then Hank finds out about the RV, so that they have to destroy the RV before Hank finds out like that Walt's involved in it and stuff. Because like they nearly got caught. Like honestly, it was very close to them getting caught.
Yeah. Well, like Hank and Walt were separated by like a small wall, you know.
Yeah. Like they had to like basically pretend that Marie was in the hospital to like get him out of there, pretty much.
Yeah. And when Hank realized that that like it was a trick, that Marie wasn't actually in the hospital, Hank is like, oh, Jesse like somehow like found out about my wife and like told me she was like in the hospital hurt.
Yep.
You know, keep in mind he didn't know about Walt. So he shows up later at Jesse's house and beats him up.
Yep.
And you know, this is a kind of a loss for Hank because he ends up like going through like almost losing his job and like, you know, almost getting sued. But for Jesse, he got the crap kicked out of him. And we see later, like in the hospital, like he really blames Walt, and like he's upset because you know he constantly gets the crap kicked out of him. But he sees this just like in a long line of like having horrible things happen to him since he's met him.
Yeah, and I like how they talk about it. Well, he sees this as a loss, but he also kind of sees this as a victory because, like, in a very small one in a sense, because now he has something on Hank that he could pretty much like ruin Hank's life now because of this.
Right. And he fully planned on it. Like he was going to ruin Hank's life. But then Walt said one sentence, and that changed everything. He said, "Your meth is good, Jesse. Just as good as mine."
So it's kind of like.
I think this really showed like Jesse is just like desperate for like approval.
Yeah, and I think I think that's kind of a win-loss, like win because he got the approval, but also kind of like a loss because Walt like sucked him back in and all that type of stuff. Like, and
it's also like I think Walt was like being genuine, but also like not, you know, like I don't think, but like he only said it to like make Jesse come back and like not press charges against Hank.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's lying. Because like remember, he never takes it back, and like he says that again later. Like in season 5, he says like we are like the 2 greatest meth cooks in America.
Yeah.
So like he never like takes it back and he's like I'm the best or like just me. Like he includes Jesse from now on.
Yeah. And then but then again he gets a win out of the Hank situation because when he's leaving the hospital. He sees Hank, like, who's just had the shootout with Tuco's cousins. And he kind of saw it as, like, the world was kind of, for once, the world was looking out for him, where, like, Hank got karma for beating the crap out of Jesse type of thing.
Yeah. He leaves the hospital and Skinny Pete picks him up and he's like, "You good, man?" He's like, Yeah, I am pretty good.
Yeah. So I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And then
they start like going to AA meetings to try and like sell meth to like the recovering addicts.
Yep. One thing I want to talk about before we do talk about any of this stuff, because this happens before, is we got to talk about one specific moment in the Fly episode that we talked about last time.
Right, you talked about that
because obviously the Fly episode, the Fly is meant to be like Walt's conscience, and he has all these other things like that he's going on, and that's why he can't catch the Fly. So he's trying to like clear his conscience. I think something has to be said in a way because at the end, it leads to like a moment where Walt and Jesse, like, this is the first time they really talk about Jane's death, where like Jesse acknowledges like that it wasn't really anybody's fault and everything like that, and he's kind of like finally had some like he's kind of finally accepted it and stuff like that.
Yeah, like he's not like grieving as much, like he's had some closure.
And I think that's why like Jesse's able to kind of catch the Fly, because he's finally accepted and he's kind of like stopped grieving about Jane's death.
Right. Which kind of makes that, when I first watched the show, I was kind of like, how come Jesse moved on from Jane so quick?
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like, he like this, the Fly, like you said, yeah, it was kind of like Jesse like kind of getting his closure with Jane and like talking about it. And like, don't get me, he still loves her obviously, because like what Walt said to him in season 5, like obviously really hurt him.
Yeah.
Like it's not like he ever stopped loving her, but like he was kind of like ready to move on, like love someone else, I guess.
And I think because like I think the next episode he meets Andrea, if I'm not mistaken. So that was kind of
right.
But I also think too, like in a sense, like it showed in a sense like how much pressure Walt has, and Jesse doesn't feel the same pressure. Like Walt had to kind of like keep the pressure of like keeping the fact that he was like this big meth cook like to Hank, and he had to like he was trying to keep it with his, trying to make amends with his family. He also was trying to get. Right. I think.
Like what Walt said, where it's like he was talking about that moment where he was watching TV. Junior was over his friends, and like Skylar and Holly were sleeping in the other room. And like he was talking about like how he should have died right there, and like he shouldn't have lived any longer.
Yeah.
Like Jesse didn't have that feeling where Walt was basically like, I wish I was dead already.
Yeah.
And then Jesse Jesse didn't quite feel like that, So Walt, I feel like was definitely like feeling worse.
Because if you remember, like later on, like even though it's when you see he's still dealing, even though he's still dealing with it at the end of that episode where Jesse isn't as much. Because you got to remember too, the one thing we didn't talk about. I think this is the first time like Walt was kind of feeling Gus, because he saw like what Gus did, inadvertently getting the cousins killed, in a sense. So he kind of like I think was feeling Gus like at that moment. That's why he was so pressured about everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, why don't you talk about the new Jesse's ready to love somebody else? Why don't you talk about the somebody else that he's ready to love?
Right. So he meets Andrea at one AA meetings where he's trying to sell meth to everyone. And at first, like he was just going to do that, like sell her meth. But then he finds out she has a kid.
Yeah.
And like they start like a relationship, and like when she like is originally like, hey, so can I have some of that meth? And he's like, no, you got a kid. I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
But like when they're talking about like the subject, Andrea brings up like her younger brother is like falling in with like the wrong like people, and like he's been working for like these local drug dealers, and like he killed a guy like a couple months ago.
Yep.
And then Jesse realized like the person he killed was Combo, and Jesse wanted to like get revenge on these drug dealers. One, because like they've been like manipulating Andrea's brother.
Yep.
And the first is obviously like they killed his friend Combo.
Absolutely.
So at first Jesse was gonna have Wendy like give them some food, because I guess like she'll order them some food every now and again.
Yeah, as like it's kind of like that's how she pays for like some of the drugs and stuff like that.
She's like and then he was gonna put the rice in their food. But Walt like informed Gus and like stopped him before they could.
Yeah.
Because it turns out these guys were employed by Gus.
And I think one cool thing about this is we haven't really talked about it, because we haven't really had the subject hasn't come up. This is kind of like when Walt and Jesse are like starting to work for Gus, and it's going fine at first, but Gus makes it known that he doesn't want to work with Jesse because he's a junkie, and he wants nothing to do with him, and he has respect for Walt. The only reason he even hires Jesse to begin with is because of the respect that he has for Walt. And I think he kind of knew, because obviously he did the research on Walt when he found out he was like Hank's brother-in-law and stuff. He realized Jesse was going to be like a threat if he didn't hire him. I feel like we don't talk about that enough, so that's kind of why he hired him too.
And also, like I saw this online the other day actually, so I'm kind of glad we maybe waited a little bit to do this video. I think Gus, it's debated on if Gus knew, like ordered the hit on Andrew's brother, because the drug dealers ended up killing Andrew's brother to like tie up any loose ends, like so he doesn't like say anything about the operation. And it's debated on like if Gus like ordered them to kill him or not. But a good theory was like even if he didn't even if he didn't directly order it, like he still knew they would.
Yeah.
And that would cause Jesse to like go confront them, and then the drug dealers would kill Jesse. And then because he wanted Jesse out of the picture, but he didn't want to upset Walt.
Yep.
So he's like, if Jesse goes and gets himself killed, then Walt has nothing to be upset about.
Yeah. So that's
So people were thinking like, oh, maybe Gus ordered them to kill the kid. Then Jesse will try to avenge him. He'll get killed, and then Walt, he won't have any issues. He didn't plan on Walt, running him over with his car.
Yep. That's honestly a great theory right there, because I can actually totally see that being the case. Because Gus thinks like 3 steps ahead of everybody. So
yeah.
But I think this is this causes all that to happen. And then pretty much Jesse has to go on the run from Walt. Not Walt, Gus and stuff, because Gus is pretty much on a mission to kill him, and yeah, I think that's a cool scene. And pretty much Walt and Jesse know on borrowed times, because now Gus doesn't want anything to do with
now that Walt's kind of went against what Gus wanted. Like Gus wants to get rid of him by replacing him with Gale.
Yeah, so pretty much they get the address of Gale, and Walt has to pretty much kill Gale, and Jesse tries to talk him out of it, which I thought was kind of a cool thing. But then Walt gets brought over to the super lab, and they say there was a problem with it, but really they're just going to kill Walt right then and there. So pretty much Walt has Jesse go do it, because Walt...
Yeah, he tells Mike, I called Jesse, and at first you think, oh, he's going to rat Jesse out. But then when he calls Jesse, and Mike thinks he's going to lure him to the laundromat.
Yep.
Walt tells him they're going to kill me here. You have to go do it. By the way, something I noticed is whenever Walt wants Jesse to do something, he says do it.
Yep.
And this goes all the way up until the finale, but we'll get to that. So it's kind of this is showing Jesse is kind of Walt's puppet, doing whatever he wants.
Yeah. So then Jesse goes to do it, and yeah, this is probably one of the worst things Jesse's ever done, is he's actually had to kill somebody, because
this was his first kill in the show. And also it's it sucks because Gale was probably one of the nicest people in the show.
Yeah,
even his reason for cooking meth was honestly kind of nice. He was I'd rather them taking my safe product than some other meth that could kill them.
He honestly might have been the nicest person in the show. I think the only I think everybody else I guess you could say
pretty much everyone in the show is a bad person except maybe 5 people.
Yeah, I would or has some type of problems going on.
Yeah.
Gale honestly, weirdly, Gale might even be a nicer person than Walter Jr., because he has some struggles himself and stuff.
Yeah, Gale Jr. and the kids, Holly, Brock, and then I think that's kind of it. I think everyone else is kind of a bad person.
Maybe Andrea, but
yeah, Andrea's fine, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, you honestly felt bad for Gale, because yeah, he pretty much but yeah, Jesse did have a choice but to kill him, pretty much.
Yeah, because otherwise him and Walt would have been killed.
Yeah. So that's the end of season 3. I would say the end of season 3 for Jesse was a loss, because he found out that how Combo died.
Yeah, he found out he was killed by a kid, and the kid is his new girlfriend's brother. He tried to put a stop to them using kids as soldiers. That ended up making them kill the kid.
Yeah.
So Jesse feels responsible for both Combo's death and the death of the kid.
He loses the last connection to Jane, because he can't.
Yeah, with the voicemail. Yeah.
Um,
And then
Hank beats
he ends up on the run from Gus. And then at the end, he has to kill someone. And like we said, the person probably deserved to die the least.
Yeah. And then Hank beat the crap out of him.
Yeah, Hank beat the crap out of him.
And then, that's about the victories. Though there is some victories in there, like he finds out he's finally good at something. He gets like recognition from Walt. And
also, I think this is the season where like Walt's manipulation is like less subconscious and more like Walt's doing it on purpose.
So that's probably a loss right there. And then another win is like in a sick two other wins he was calmer for him because he got to see like Hank after the shootout with the cousins, so he felt like calmer happened. And then he got to he kind of finally dealt with Jane's death in this season too, and finally stopped grieving over it. I would say it was also a victory. And then he met Andrea this season, which kind of becomes a bit of a victory.
Right. I mean, maybe a loss in the long run.
And then we gotta take him where we can get him, though. We're living in the moment. So.
Yeah. He's fine for now. It's good for now.
And then let's talk about season 4, because I feel like season 4 is like where Jesse like goes through like a lot of losses and a lot of wins. So let's talk about it. So obviously, like in the beginning of the season, he's in a very bad way. He's physically depressed because he has to deal with the fact that he killed Gail, and he's pretty much this is when he starts to do cocaine, and he's back on the drugs. He's having parties at his house all the time, and it looks like he's happy, but we find out he's depressed. He's just having these parties, I think, just to kind of like escape, just to kind of forget about it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like when someone like steals all of his money and Mike like brings all the money back and like has the guy tied up. Jesse's like, Mike's like, are you gonna wonder what I'm gonna do with this guy? And Jesse's like, nope.
Yeah.
So like clearly Jesse doesn't like care about what happens anymore.
I think there's a big scene about it, like that really tells the story. Like when he goes go-karting, like you see like Jesse's like riding the go-kart but on like the inside he's like screaming and all that type of stuff.
I'm pretty sure he asked Walt if he wanted to go-karting.
Yeah.
Just because he wanted to like be around someone. Because like he was like partying for like 3 days straight, and like he wanted to keep everyone there.
Yeah.
But like his friends were like, we gotta like go. We can't just party here forever. We'll see you later, man.
It's so bad to the point like the parties aren't even like parties anymore. They're like, it's basically like his house is used to like as like a homeless shelter, but like it's like scary. Like
yeah. So yeah, he's like just desperate to have people around him not think about killing Gail.
There was actually
like we saw like he was like playing a video game and like he just kept killing Gail over and over again.
There actually is a victory though in the beginning that we don't talk about.
Can I just say, I wish Walt said yes to going go-karting. I wanted to see Walt and Jesse go-karting one time, man.
Yeah, that would have been funny. There was a small victory here though. Is that he gets. If you remember, we didn't really talk about it all that much. Andrea wasn't living in a good situation. They were living like in a bad neighborhood. So he actually gave Andrea the money to like get into a better house in a better neighborhood. So I think that's actually kind of a small victory right there.
Yeah.
And then so like in the beginning of the season, like Jesse's just in a bad state. I think too, like his PTSD's bad because when Walt because he realizes like Hank has like the photo of Gail and stuff and kind of knows the connections. When Walt tries to get Jesse to like go through what happened with the death, he just can't deal with it. And then I think some victories come because Mike realizes like how big of a problem Jesse's becoming because he basically got his money stolen and didn't really care about it and all that type of stuff. So they realized
like he's a risk basically. So Mike takes Jesse out on a job. Jesse thinks he's gonna get killed. But yeah, it turns out like Jesse's gonna start like working for like with Mike as like one of his like Gus's like men.
Yep.
And this is done to like one, get Jesse under control, kind of separate him and Walt.
Yep.
Yeah, so Jesse kind of like, this is a bit of a win for Jesse. Feel like important. He gets to like show his worth, like by like thinking outside the box, like getting some money back from some drug dealers, like faster than Mike could have.
I would say it's a bit of a win, but it's also like a bit of a loss because he's also being used as a bit of a pawn to kind of split Jesse and
right. Yeah. Like for later on, I'd say it's a loss, but like in the moment, like Jesse gets to feel like important and useful, so I say it's a win in the moment.
Because we find out that the like robbery that he stopped was like was a setup by Gus.
Yeah. So like at the moment, Jesse gets to feel like important. He stopped. He protected the money they have, but yeah, it ended up being like manipulation. So,
but the ways they make him feel important is actually really good because like later on we find out that the cartel has been like stealing some of Gus's product and stuff, and because of Jesse's connection with using this stuff and everything like that, he's able to like get the product back and everything like that. So like Jesse's starting to feel important. And when he sees Gus, like Gus even says, like, I like to think I see things in people. I don't know. I definitely think in a sense, like at the moment, Gus just said that to kind of manipulate Jesse. But I think later on, like, do you ever think later on he kind of did see something in Jesse? Like one,
for real. Like especially like by the time they're in Mexico, like Jesse has really like proved himself, and like there's a reason like he wanted him as the cook and all.
Yeah. And yeah, Jesse's really starting to like really feel.
And it's like, like I think it's very clear like Jesse and Mike are pretty similar, so I think Gus saw like a new Mike in Jesse.
Yeah. And this is when we kind of start to see.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Win for Jesse is like he builds a really strong relationship with Mike.
Yeah, I want to talk about
it. Mike's and kind of find out in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I guess it can be kind of inferred in Breaking Bad because, like, he has his granddaughter he cares about, but we never see his son. Jesse, like, he lost his son, so he kind of gets to like sees Jesse as like the new surrogate son.
Yeah, and I will
that's a bit of a loss too because like he's torn between like he sees both Mike and Walt as like father figures, so like he's kind of like torn between them.
And when we do a video of did Mike win or lose, I think I won't say what it is, but I think in Better Call Saul, in a sense, especially in season 4, he kind of gets what Jesse's going through because Mike's had to deal with some of the same situations that Jesse's had to deal with. But that's all. I can't say it because AJ hasn't seen the rest of season 4. So.
Right.
But then I think the moment that as a big victory for Jesse in season 4 is they go to Mexico because they want basically, since Gus is working for the cartel, they want to know how to get the product up to the purity of Eisenberg's. So that basically Jesse knows how to produce the formula. At first, Jesse's not very confident about it because he also talks to Walt about it, which causes the final resolving of their relationship. At least in that moment when they get into like a fight and stuff, which you can make the argument that's a loss because Gus's plan worked, but I think that's more of a loss for Walt than it is for Jesse. And then he really proved himself in Mexico because like he went and took charge in the meth lab.
You basically had like his say my name moment. It was a bit of a loss though because like he proved himself to be really the greatest like meth cook. That's Walt. So the cartel wanted him to like live there forever as their property.
Yeah. I would say it's a bit of a win because like he not only like showed them how to do the lab, but he like took control. Like he even like talked about like how he basically ripped them like a new asshole pretty much, like when he saw like how badly the lab was like looked and everything like that. Like,
yeah, I like how like the guy like he was like called the guy an asshole, thinking he couldn't speak English, and then when the guy said I can speak English, he didn't like he didn't like freeze up. He was like, oh no, he was like he doubled down. He was like, nope. Oh, so you understand? I called you an asshole then? Good.
Yeah, and then like he like, but I also I was like worried too because like he really like talked about how this lab had to be in high standards, but then he really had to prove himself like when it came to actually like cooking the meth. And when Jesse got the meth to purity, I don't think he actually like was surprised that he was able to get it there because I don't think he expected it because
yeah,
which I thought
no, he was like 95%. I think Walt usually gets around like 98, 99. So Walt, I mean Jesse's like really like he's pretty much on par with Walt.
Yep. And then like another victory is at the end when after Gus kills like Don Eladio and stuff, he's able to like save Gus and get Gus and Mike to safety because he's able to like take out one of the guys and kill him. And what's honestly is actually I would say a victory. Like he's the one that gets like Gus and Mike to the doctors and stuff and like saves their lives pretty much. And he's really proven himself to Gus where like he can run the lab like by himself, which I think is pretty cool. And then after the fall of after things start to not go their way though, with when because obviously he sees because Gus still wants to kill Walt, but Jesse won't allow it. So we're meant to think because obviously when the DEA starts to get involved some more. Gus is trying to manipulate Jesse to like call a hit on Walt pretty much because it's starting to affect the business. But Jesse is still not having it. So we see that Brock gets poisoned, and he thinks that Walt's a part of it. Thinks Walt's a part of it. We're gonna get back to that.
Right. And to be fair to Walt, like his explanation of like why Gus did it, like that was pretty much all my reasons why I thought Gus did it.
Yeah. Like it made complete sense. Yeah,
so basically like Jesse and Walt's relationship is horrible at this point. And Jesse goes to kill Walt because he thinks Walt poisoned Brock to like get back at him.
Yeah.
But then Gus and then Walt like tells Jesse like it's Gus and Gus is manipulating them both to like turn against each other so like he can be the cook, the new cook.
Yeah.
So then Walt and Jesse finally team up again to take down Gus. And this is a win for the moment because it's like, sweet, they're back together, they're a team again. Find out later, it was Jesse was like a pawn again.
Yeah.
This whole season is like a loss in hindsight because like Jesse was a pawn the entire time. Like he was Gus's pawn for 90% of it, and then he was Walt's pawn for like the last 10.
But I would say it's kind of
like in the moment. But like if we're just talking season 4 without like season 5, I'd say it's like a win overall.
Yeah, because he gets to finally we get to finally see Jesse's like able to like prove himself, and he's able to like prove that he can actually like be a top like person in the drug business, not just by cooking meth, but like being like a hitman and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. And there's not really much else to talk about. Like Brock lives, so that's good. Jesse's like integral to taking down Gus.
Yeah, I feel like we don't really talk about that because like because Jesse was able to give he was able to give Saul the information telling them that like Hector and about Hector and stuff. Like without Jesse, I don't think Walt would have been able to get that information. No,
definitely he wouldn't have been able to. So Jesse's been really important in doing that.
Yeah.
They both burn the super lab together, and they kind of have that moment on the rooftop where they shake hands. They've made up. They're partners again.
And then
season 4 I'd say is a win for Jesse.
Yeah, definitely. And he also gets like Andrew and Brock like out of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And he kind of he kind of reconciles with Andrew again because I remember they went through like a period where they didn't really talk all that much, and then like towards the end of the season they were kind of like good.
Yeah. So now to talk about the worst season the best season like writing wise, but the worst season for every character.
Yeah.
like season 5 is great. It's like one of those shows where it's like I love watching it, but I would not want to live in it.
No, unless I was like an innocent bystander, like that waiter at
yeah. If I was in the Breaking Bad world, but I had nothing to do with Breaking Bad, sure.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, Jesse starts out. I mean, most of the characters start out real well. Mainly, like Mike, mainly Jesse and Walt and stuff. Yeah, Jesse is actually doing really well. I actually say he kind of starts out a little bit though as a loss. I know this didn't happen first, but I think we should talk about it because like Walt made him think that he just left like the licensed cigarette somewhere, like
yeah, and then like the room picked it up.
And,
so basically, Walt poisoned Brock, and then made Jesse feel like he was just feel like a moron.
Yeah, so I think that was a loss right there. I think the wins that come though is like Jesse gets to actually see like he's really proven himself because we talked about like before like Walt was really the brains in the operation where Jesse like had the connections. We got to see that Jesse's a bit of the brains because a lot of the stuff that they do,
he's really thinking outside the box. Like he comes up with the magnet.
Yeah.
He comes up with the idea of like robbing the train.
Well, not necessarily the idea with robbing the train, but like
or no, but like the way they do it.
Yeah. And I think that I mean I think that's really cool. Like Jesse's really proven himself to that like he can actually provide something to the operation. And you know, he's obviously like he's like one of the biggest like meth cooks now in the world at this point because Gus is out of the picture and basically everyone that they come in contact with is out of the picture. So but I think we'll also get to see like he's still the only one that has morals like in the show because what's obviously would have saved a lot of trouble in, later. But like when Mike tries to kill Lydia, Jesse like tries to like prove her innocence when like she thinks like they're trying to sabotage their business and all that type of stuff. And he finally feels like that he has like a father figure like Walt. And he's starting to develop like a relationship with him, but we also see that this is the losses in the beginning. That like we really see like on purpose Walt manipulating Jesse. Like he manipulates Jesse to go back into the meth business. Like right after everything that happens with Gus, in a sense, Walt manipulated him to like break up with Andrea, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because
so the season started off really good for Jesse, like you were saying, like Jesse proving himself, and he gets to work with both Walt and Mike.
Yeah,
which I'm sure he really liked, you know, and they got to feel powerful because like when they started like you know like using like pretending to be
the exterminators.
What's it called? Huh? Exterminators. Yeah, thank you. They got to feel like in charge and powerful, and like you know they were making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And like his relationship with Andrea was good at the beginning, but then like you said, like he kind of keeps his distance after a while, and he ends up breaking up with her.
Yeah. I think too. We could talk about whether this is a win or a loss. Like he was kind of the one that was able to get Mike and Walt to kind of like work together. Even though they like completely didn't like each other and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of cool. Like without him, like Walt and Mike probably wouldn't be able to work with each other. But then the losses I would say happened like after the train episode, pretty much. I would say too, like one thing Jesse felt proud of was like they did the biggest train heist of the century, and he was like the one that was a part of it. But then it also caused the life of a kid. What was his name again? I forget.
Drew Sharp.
Drew Sharp. Because Todd shot him, and this made Jesse feel like crappy because
and what's worse is like Jesse wanted to get rid of Todd like immediately. Their only good option was to keep him on the payroll.
Yep. this is basically what the point where like Jesse starts to like feel guilty about this because
so like when Mike's gonna get out of the business, Jesse basically like takes the opportunity to. Well, at first Jesse's gonna stay in it because Walt like convinces him like we're gonna keep going. We're gonna we're not gonna let anything like this happen again. Couple months, we'll have all the money we could ever want. We could do whatever we want.
Yo.
And Jesse was gonna like do that plan, but when like, he starts leaving, he hears Walt just like whistling away.
Yo.
Like clearly, like he just doesn't really care.
And I think
that they murdered a little kid.
And he also pointed up too, like he sees that like what Walt's saying is bullshit too, because like every time because something bad always happens, and I think he's starting to see like Walt's like a big cause of it. And he keeps saying that it's not gonna happen.
This is really a season where like Jesse kind of like sees through the bullshit. Like Jesse points out multiple times, like Walt is manipulating him.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't, and like later on when Walt says like I didn't kill Mike, like Jesse knows it's lying.
Yeah. So yeah, Jesse gets out of the business. Well,
he tries to with Mike to get the $5 million, but then Walt kind of like only gets the $5 million to Mike and keeps Jesse in the business.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Don't you remember that? Like, he doesn't get this money, but he just pretty much like he doesn't really care about the money. He just wants out of the business.
Well, he wants the money at first, but then he has the argument with Mike with Walt.
Yeah.
And Walt, like he basically brings up everything Jesse's like done wrong. He brings up he's a drug addict, and like all the people they've killed, like they're bad people, but they can like this is something they're good at.
He even mentions like that Jesse would just blow the money anyways. So like
Right. So he's like. He feel bad and stay in the business.
And he also mentions, because this is also what ties in, like he mentions that the money's just blood money anyways.
Right, yeah, that was the big thing, because like before, Jesse always wanted the money.
Yeah.
But Walt saying that like later on is like basically like what makes Jesse like just completely done with it.
Yeah.
He wants nothing to do with it.
So yeah, when Jesse eventually pulls out of the business, I think Walt too like Jesse continuously tried to get out of the business, but Walt's like he's also trying to keep Jesse in the business. Like I remember like there's a point like where Walt's just like you could just help me get me going for a couple weeks. That's no big deal.
Right, yeah, well that was the whole point. Like Jesse was gonna get out with Mike, but like Walt purposefully like included Jesse to like keep him in the business.
Yeah. So then
like I think Hank points it out later too with Jesse, like he's like trying really hard to keep him.
Yeah. And then what I feel like too, like a big loss was when he found out, well, he didn't really find out, but when he figured out Mike died, pretty much, because
because like he just thinks he got away, but then when he hears about the prison killings on TV,
yeah,
he said like you wouldn't do that if you didn't have to worry about Mike, because like if you kill all those guys with Mike around, you'd have to worry about Mike coming after you.
Yeah.
But since you did it, that makes me think you killed Mike because you don't have to worry about him anymore.
Yeah. And then we also talk about it's a bit of a victory for Jesse in the sense because it kind of gets like Walt's not really able to manipulate him anymore. Like once Mike dies.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when he gets the money, it's like it's a bit of a victory because like he got everything he ever wanted from the start of of why he got into the business to begin with. But then
just got all the money he could ask for, but he hates it because like Walt gave him the idea that it's blood money.
Yeah, and yeah, pretty much like the that episode, like the rest of the show, like he's pretty much depressed. Like that money to him is just like we said, blood money. It's it makes him feel guilty because of all the people they've had to kill and stuff to get that money. And
he starts trying to give it out to people to like make up for it. Like he tries to give it to Mike's granddaughter and parents of Drew Sharp.
Yeah.
Because I think what Mike said in like the El Camino flashback stuck with him.
Yeah.
Where he said, you can have a fresh start, but you can't make things right. And like Jesse knows he can't make things right, but he's trying to make it at least better.
Yeah. Which we could talk about that because that's technically in season 5 because that was a flashback.
Yeah.
And eventually, when Hank finds out, he tries to get like Jesse to say something, but Jesse obviously refuses to say something because we never really talk about this, but it's about in the criminal world, the worst thing you can do is rat on people, and Jesse doesn't want to be a rat.
Yeah.
Because he sees it as a bad thing, and I think even though like him and Walter are having disagreements, he still cares about Walter enough to like not rat him out to Hank.
Yeah.
And then I think the biggest loss for Jesse was what it looks like he's gonna get out like a winner a little bit because he's gonna get like he's basically gonna go into hiding.
He's gonna usually disappear to like get out.
Yeah.
Start a new life somewhere. Like, and Will even says like you're so damn young, you could like still like get married, have kids, like have your whole life ahead of you.
But then he finds out because Huel pickpocketed his weed from him, this makes him figure out that he, the rice and cigarette that he kept like on him at all times was pickpocketed from him. So this made him realize that Walt really did poison Brock. And I would say that was
so he goes back, beats up Saul, like to get confirmation. Yeah. And then strikes out on his own. He originally goes to Walt's house to light it on fire. But Hank stops him and they team up.
I would say this was a loss for Jesse right here. Like when he found out like the person that like he cared about that he thought cared about him the most, like poison Brock. Because afterwards, if you remember too, he even questions like if it was just Lily of the Valley that poisoned Brock all along. Like, did Gus really need to go? So like, I think he questioned like, did he side with the right person in the end?
Right, because that was the thing at the end of season 4 where like Jesse was like Will confirms him like, yeah, Gus had to go. Which I mean he did because like Gus probably would have just like killed them both.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, he would have killed Walt, and then like he would have you kept using Jesse as a pawn.
Yeah. But I think it made like Jesse question like, did I team up with the right person at the end of the day?
Right.
At least in that moment. And then I would say like he kind of starts to have a little bit of a victory. Because even though he's being used as a pawn again, I think he actually kind of liked it this time because we talked about it before, without Jesse, Hank wouldn't have been able to catch Eisenberg.
Right. And the thing is, like, I think Jesse just doesn't care anymore because, like, he doesn't care about being a rat anymore, and like he doesn't even try to like make a deal, get out of jail time.
Yeah.
So I think he just wants to bring Walt down. He doesn't care how or like what it means.
And I would say this is where a big victory comes in because even though he had to team up with somebody he hated to bring down Walt, and I think he was happy that he brought down Walt because when Walt got arrested, he had you could feel like the weight of the world got like lifted off his shoulders when Walt got arrested.
Yeah. But that lasted about 5 seconds because then the neo-Nazi showed up, killed Hank and Gomez, and took him prisoner. But right before he left, the thing is, they were going to leave to like search the area, and Jesse could have gone away. But Walt pointed out where he was hiding. But then, they were just going to kill Jesse right then. And I think Jesse like had peace with that. He was just like looked at the sky and like accepted what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But Walt like told them that Jesse like ratted and like had tapes, so they were gonna go like torture him. And like Jesse was fighting.
Like it wasn't Walt, it was Todd that said it.
Oh right. But yeah, point is they were just gonna kill him like quick and painless.
Yep.
But then he was gonna go get tortured.
Yep.
And then he was like fighting to break away, but then Walt pulled him like to stop them and told him that he watched Jane die and like overdose.
Yep.
And like he could have stopped, he could have saved her life, but he didn't. And like after he does that, like Jesse stops fighting.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest loss because like he had one thing we don't really talk about. Like
I feel like I even said like that was probably the most evil thing Walt ever did.
Yeah, because
it was like kill, like let Jane die and then like brag about it to Jesse.
Not only did like Jesse like find out the truth, but he had to like live with the fact that he thought he killed Jane and all the not just Jane but all the people in that airway crash. But it was really Walt.
Which I mean he still kind of indirectly did. Like I'm sure he still feels guilty about it, but like less guilt. Like the more blame is on Walt, you know?
Yeah. And then even though we're gonna talk about some El Camino stuff, but it was flashback, so it kind of has to do with season 5. Like he got put through hell when he was brought into slavery.
Yeah. Well, we first see they like beat the hell out of. Well, yeah, they like hosed him down with like a fire hose.
Yep.
Or like a power hose, and they like beat the hell out of him. Like when we first see him, he's like in a cage and like half his face is swollen. And like when Todd shows up, he's like begging. He's like, "No, I already told you everything for me," you know.
And then like he pretty much is like forced to cook meth for everyone.
And they give him like a picture of Andrea and Brock, so like making it clear, like you know, like they know who they are.
Yep. And then when he tries to escape, he inadvertently gets Andrea killed.
And the thing is that Jesse even says like, "All right, go ahead and kill me. I don't care, but I'm not cooking any more meth."
Yep.
And then they go and kill Andrea and make him watch.
Yeah.
Not only that, when Todd gets in the car, he gets next to Jesse. So Jesse has to be in the car ride with Todd after he just murdered his girlfriend.
Yep. And
they say, like, if you try to escape again, we'll kill the kid.
Yeah.
So like Jesse was willing to die, but like they won't even let him die.
Yeah. So that's the worst part about it. And I think we talked about too, like the main reason Jesse broke up with Andrea, he didn't really want to bring her into this life because of what happened with Jane. And I think like this life, like we talked about it too, like why that episode of like even though it's a fellow episode, that episode like in between episode 14 and 16 of season 5 is important because it showed like how much of the lives that Jesse and Walt affected because of it, and it affected Andrea.
Right, yeah, like if that episode wasn't there, I feel like we feel like Jesse and Walt got off scot-free, you know? Like that episode was really there to show like
maybe not Jesse.
To show like they like did like suffer for their actions.
Yeah. So not only did like even Rocky suffers a little bit too because like he lost his mom because of it. Yeah, to think about it, I hate to say it too.
And Jesse never like saw Brock again. Like he wrote him a letter at the end of Elko, like saw him again.
Yeah. And then like we see that he just suffers though because there is a scene where he gets that little bit of freedom when like Jack and the rest of the crew are away except for Todd. He's basically watching Jesse, and he has to like help Todd put like his maid or something like into the back of the car.
Because Todd killed the maid when she found his money, and they like buried it out in the desert. And like Jesse like grabs the gun that was in like the and like was gonna kill Todd.
Yeah.
But Jesse ended up not doing it because he it was like Jesse just felt like even though Jesse was like technically out of his cage, he still wasn't free. Because like if he killed Todd, then what? The rest of the gang would still hunt him down and they would kill Brock.
Which I think is even more.
Which is honestly that's probably the cruelest thing because it's like Jesse is like not in his cage, but he's still that's like I feel like when you're in a cage, like you feel like you're in a cage. Jesse is like he's like on the cusp of freedom. He can't do anything.
Yeah, that's why which makes me think like because I think we were meant to think like he was there all this time. It's actually even worse. Like I feel like they gave him that little bit of freedom just to make him realize he really didn't have the freedom. Like
right, yeah, like make him think he has the freedom and then take it away.
Yeah. And then the end of and then I think too like this really showed like we talked about earlier like how Jesse when he made that jewelry box traded it for weed. It really shows that that's really what he did. He traded the box in a sense like traded his life for pretty much slavery pretty much and drugs. Because there's that moment at the last episode where it shows him like making the box, and that's kind of what he gave up his life for. And then, I mean, the end of the show, he finally gets his freedom, and we didn't really talk about that, but he finally gets his revenge on Todd for pretty much all the crap that he's put him through, not just in the slavery, but like pretty much having to have him live with the guilt of the death of Drew Sharp, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that is a bit of a victory right there.
Yeah, that he like kills Todd. And also, it's kind of like Walt was going there to kill Jesse too, because Jesse felt like he teamed up with him.
Yep.
But when Walt sees like he's been kept as like their prisoner, Walt kind of showed that he did still like love Jesse deep down.
Yep.
And like saved his life.
And then
and I think the biggest thing is Walt gives him the freedom, you know? Like Walt passes him the gun. And like it's Jesse's choice, you know, like Jesse has the freedom now.
Yep.
And it's not only like the freedom from Jack's gang. You know, Walt like gives him like, you know, like I said earlier, like Walt said, do it, like kill me, you want this. It's exactly what he's been doing this entire show, telling Jesse what he wants and that he should do it. But Jesse asks, you know, he says like Jesse like knows what he's doing now. Like he knows he's being manipulated, and he said, you know, he makes Walt admit that like this isn't what Jesse wants, it's what Walt wants, and Walt finally like admits it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like with Skylar, like, you know, like he's finally like he's done like bullshitting. Like he tells Skylar like, yeah, I didn't do it for the family, for me.
Yep.
And like he tells Jesse like how it is, like, yeah, you're right. This isn't like what you wanted. This is what I want.
Absolutely.
And Jesse sees Walt like got hit, so like he's gonna bleed out and die anyway.
Yep.
So Walt, Jesse, this is basically the biggest revenge Jesse could have on Walt at this point was not killing him.
Yeah. Because like not only did
like not giving Walt what he wants.
Yeah, which I thought was cool. I think that's why I think Jesse goes like the end of season 5, even though it's ambiguous. We have opinions. I would say he goes out kind of in a victory because not only does he escape slavery, he gets revenge on Todd for the death of Andrea, and Drew Sharp, and he gets to break away from like Walt's manipulation finally. Like he finally doesn't give Walt what he wants.
And also, but they also have like that last moment where like they look at each other and like nod. So it's kind of like they didn't fully make up or anything, but they kind of they kind of did, you know?
Yeah.
It's not ambiguous. And then, you know, the last shot of Jesse in Breaking Bad, the series, is Jesse driving away, breaking through the gates that he couldn't escape before. Kind of like symbolizing like he broke free from like this life, you know? Not just like the camp where he's been held prisoner, but just like, you know, like the life he's been living the last 5 seasons, you know?
Absolutely.
And like he's crying, he's laughing, and screaming, and you know, honestly, even if we never got El Camino, I was fine with that ending, Jesse.
Yeah.
So the ending is a victory, but I think season 5 overall is a loss.
Yeah, I would say so because he probably deals with the most pain in season 5.
Like season 5, I was really like torn because like I was saying, like the ending is a victory, but the rest of it isn't.
Yeah.
And El Camino happened, and I just kind of say that El Camino's season 5 is the loss.
Yeah, because El Camino technically takes place like this, like shortly after, like pretty much right after, but also. Like,
El Camino literally starts with Jesse like driving away, so like El Camino starts like 5 seconds after Breaking Bad ended.
Yep. So
So I can pretty much just take the ending of Breaking Bad with Jesse and place it into El Camino.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I would say El Camino, like, we've talked about the movie, so we're not going to go through it, like,
easy win.
I think it's
not easy, but like Jesse had to struggle a bit. He had to go through Todd's apartment. He had to he was gonna let himself get arrested. Like after he finally got free, he was like gonna feel like he was gonna go back to jail. He was gonna go to jail because like he didn't want to kill any cops.
Yep.
And then when he finds out they aren't cops, he like almost, you know, he gets the money and then he goes to disappear. It's not enough money, and he has to go kill 2 people.
Yeah, like there was a lot of victories here. Like,
yeah,
I feel like his friends kind of saw
Skinny Pete and Badger again.
and I think his friends kind of saw him as a hero. That's why they were helping him all this time.
Yeah. And he got to see like his friends do care about him, and like they're very.
Yep.
Even though he ends up like ditching him, he got to like see the guy one last time, and like huh?
See who?
The junkyard guy, the guy who gave him the magnet. I can't remember his name.
Yeah. And then
I think his name is Blue. And then even though he ended up ditching him because the El Camino was getting tracked by the police. I like when they first saw each other again. He was like, "Don't worry, kid, it's on the house. We've been through a lot."
Yeah.
So I don't know, like that whole like him being at Skinny Pete Badger's place kind of like showed like people do care about him.
Yep.
And we get that again with his parents when he calls them. Well, at first it's really sad because he sees them on TV and they're telling him to like turn himself in.
Yeah.
But then when he calls them, he talks to them. He didn't get to say bye to his brother, which was sad. I mean, obviously, like the real reason for that was like the kid would be like our age at that point, like in real life.
But he got to he got to see his parents cared about him because like.
Yeah. Well, the last thing he told his parents was like go to the park where we had picnics when I was a kid. So it's kind of like the last, and he got to like say to his parents like, you didn't do anything wrong. This is all on me. Yeah. So the last time he talked to his parents, he got to apologize, and like the last time they talked about a happy memory,
And you got to see like his parents cared about him too because like he saw that like they dropped like when they were washing the dishes they like left the water on him, showing they dropped everything to go pick up his son and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. So he got to the last time he talked to his parents was nice, and he got to see they really did like love him.
He gets he gets revenge on Neil, via the shootout. The guy that's the
like made the cage.
Yeah.
He got the money, and then like you said, he got to make those three other guys live in.
Yep. And then
Jesse kind of got to feel like Mike, pretty much.
And then like, even though it's earlier, but like what Walt says, he didn't have to wait. Even though like he goes through suffering, he didn't have to wait his whole life to do something exciting. Like he was young enough where like he lived the Walt. He got kind of Walt jealous of him a little bit because he got to live the life that Walt wanted to live
so early. And but also I think like that I mean the Jane flashback. I feel like these flashbacks. I said this in our like El Camino review. These are like what Jesse thinks of when he thinks of these people.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's like Jesse and Walt were not like on good terms at the end. And like even when like Jesse like heard on the radio Walt was dead, it was kind of hard to tell what he felt. It was dark and like we couldn't really see his face that well.
Yeah.
So he didn't like seem like broken up about it, but he didn't seem like happy either.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he kind of figured Walt was going to die anyway, but like hearing the confirmation, I'm sure it was like weird for him.
Yeah.
But it's like the last, like it's kind of, it seems like the memory he thinks of whenever he is like, that scene where they're at the diner, like just talking about the future.
Yeah, what Walt thought he could have done. I mean, that says a lot, by the way, that Walt thought like he could go into like a business major pretty much. Like he said he could practically teach that course. Like that just shows you like Walt was kind of thinking like he could do a lot.
Yeah.
If you remember, Jesse like didn't really think about much of his life because all he said was like he wanted to study sports medicine. I don't even know if that was really like a real answer. I think he was just saying that to get Walt off his back or whatever. Like
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of sweet. Everything, even after everything that happened to them, like Walt, like Jesse still has like a good memory of Walt.
Yeah, a good memory of Jane.
Good memory of Mike. So yeah, it just like pretty much after everything that happened between all these people, like even after all the bad stuff, he still thinks like good of them.
I mean, one thing we didn't really talk about, the whole reason he wants to go to Alaska is because
it's because of Mike.
Yeah. And I want to talk. The biggest victory of all of it is, and I'm the one that talks about it, is all the time, and we talk about it a lot. Jesse makes off the best out of everybody in the show, and he was never meant to make it out of season 1.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably as good as you're ever gonna get.
I mean,
The
like,
character's just going to be a throwaway dude to die. Ended up being like the second most important character in the show.
Yeah, like let's take. I mean, like we'll go. Let's go through it. Like, even though we said Walt's a win, like Walt, all his family's gonna think of him as like this criminal. And with Walter Jr.'s case, who killed his uncle.
Yeah, and like Jesse's family, even though they're not happy about what he did, they still love him.
Yeah, Hank got to catch Eisenberg, but then really didn't because he died right afterwards.
Right. Yes, he basically got his revenge on everyone he wanted to, and lived to tell about it.
Skylar, like, lost the pretty much like her and Marie, like she lost her sister pretty much because they don't really talk because. Why would you after this situation?
Yeah, I can't really compare to Jesse in that one because he can't really talk to anyone he ever knew anymore because he started life.
And then, like, because of Walt's actions, like Skylar, like had to pretty much like Skylar was pretty much in like in a one-story apartment, like lost the house and
yeah. Okay, well, I mean that's not too bad because like Walt made sure they're gonna get his money eventually.
Yeah, I'm saying in that moment, but
yeah.
And then Gus lost the battle to Walt, lost the war to Walt, and you could make the argument lost the war to Hector, the person that killed his partner, business partner, whatever argument you want to make. Mike, did everything for nothing because his family is not going to get any of the money that he worked for, and his family, like his granddaughter and his stepdaughter now is probably going to think, not stepdaughter, daughter-in-law, is now probably going to think like that he was like this he was like this criminal now.
His daughter-in-law?
Yeah, his daughter-in-law.
Oh, you're talking about Mike. I thought you were talking about Walt for a second. I thought you were talking about Holly. I think it was just his sister.
Well, actually, that's something we could talk about, though. Like,
yeah, Holly's never going to know Walt. She's only ever going to hear about Eisenberg.
Yeah. But I meant to say, yeah, but Mike's daughter-in-law is going to think, they're going to think, like, Mike just did all these bad things and not going to know the reasoning behind it. Saul, I mean, as we saw, is miserable in the future, even though he's still alive.
Yeah, we don't know how that's going to end, but yeah, for now, he's miserable working at a Cinnabon.
Spoilers for Better Call Saul, but Chuck pretty much lost all the fight. Like, he pretty much died because his house got on fire because he couldn't escape his illness. And I'm trying to think. I think that's Tuco. You get the point I'm trying to make. Like, Jesse, like, not only did he live, but he got to like make amends and like have like a good ending compared to everyone else. We don't, even though we don't know what happens with Nacho or Kim yet, but as of right now, Jesse has the best ending out of everybody.
Yeah, I mean that last shot of Jesse should really like tell you, like, he's happy driving away to his new life. And like Walt said in season 5, like Jesse could still like, he could, be a carpenter. He can be whatever he wants now.
Yeah.
And he can. I mean, he probably can't go to college, like he said in El Camino, because his identity.
Well, I did talk about it, but like, he could go to like a community college. He can't go. To,
he can go to it, but you got what I mean. He couldn't like major in business. Walt was saying.
Yeah.
Like at like a big school. But like Walt, Jesse can do whatever, pretty much any job he wants in like his new life. He could meet someone new, get married, have kids. He can do whatever he wants with his life, and I think that's I think that's pretty good.
I think especially now at this point, it's definitely the case because if you remember, like, I know when Walt, even if Walt had still lived, like Walt pretty much had to basically stay in one place, like because of how big of a criminal he was. Like Jesse pretty much got to move and start all over again.
Well, yeah. Honestly, that's kind of a thing I wondered too, because like Jesse was like, I mean, now that Walt's dead, people are looking for Jesse. You know,
Yeah.
like I think Lou even says, like, at this point, who doesn't know who you are?
Yep.
So honestly, like Jesse would probably be almost as big as a criminal as Walt.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a little bit of a weird thing.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, as we talked about it, Jesse won the show. I think he's the. I mean, I know we say technically like. I think we should go through it like so. We said Walt won. We said Hank won. I know we talked about it in the video. We said like Light and L both lost, but L won overall.
Yeah, like Light won the battle, L won.
Yep. But overall, like if we did the video just on them, they both lost.
Yeah. Because it's like L won the war, but he didn't get to live to see it. And I feel like L would consider that a loss.
Yeah, we'll talk about the anime, by the way, too, not the live action stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think most people assume that.
Yeah.
And then with Jesse, I'd say it's with El Camino, it's definitely a win.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much the.
Yeah, that's the verdict of this video after an hour and a half of rambling.
So you want to know how long
Jesse Pinkman won.
I can tell you can't see it, so AJ can't see how long the video is. Right as of right now, do you want to guess how long we did this video for?
Hour and 45.
Nope. Remember how we talked about before? It only takes us like a half hour to do these videos.
Yeah.
For some reason, I think because we rambled so much, this video was 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 48 seconds.
What the Jesus? That's one of our longer videos. Shit.
I think it's because like when we did the stuff the first time, well, when we ramble, that's just who we are. But I think because when we did the stuff the first time, like it had been a while since I've seen Breaking Bad. So we just kind of went through it like with bullet points and stuff.
Yeah, it's funny because this whole video could have been summed up as Jesse lost every season except maybe 4, and then won El Camino.
Yeah, I mean, but we like to go into detail about things though.
Yeah, I guess we stretched that out for fucking 2 hours. Jesus. But yeah, hey, if you've stuck around or just skipped to this part of the video, we salute you.
Yeah.
And then, we hope you like the video.
By the way, we should have said, I hope you saw Breaking Bad, by the way, before you saw this. Imagine, like, we didn't give the warning to stop watching this video. So I hope you...
Okay, well, with Breaking Bad, I feel like that's fine. Like, when you start talking about Better Call Saul, and you were like, spoilers if you skip that part of the video, Chuck died. I was like, okay, I hope you've seen Better Call Saul.
Yeah. So, yeah, So I just ruined the first 3 seasons of Better Call Saul for people now.
Right, yeah. I was like, geez, all right. Yeah, hope you've seen it. Or at least hope you're caught up to that point. Yeah. So, hope you like the video. Again, check out our other Win or Lose videos. We're going to make more in the future.
We hope it won't be this
Better Call Saul ends. We'll make some for Saul, Mike, Gus,
Kim, because we'll know.
Yeah, Kim. Nacho. We're also going to make more for Death Note. We're going to make Matsuda, Chief Yagami.
I mean, realistically,
Mello.
We could make one for Gus right now, but he's still a factor in Better Call Saul, so we can't really make that. Like, we don't know. Like, we can't really make that video right now. So
yeah. And we'll probably make more for like shows, like other shows we do. We're gonna do Dexter, Game of Thrones, a bunch of other shows. Check those out. And we're doing Red vs. Blue right now. We took a big break, but we're still reviewing Red vs. Blue. We'll probably make a couple for those characters.
Yeah, I'll just pretty much say this: like, me and AJ have been delaying doing these videos for a while. What I'm really worried about right now, because this happened before, is I hope that we didn't just do this over 2 hour video and then I listen to it later and like the audio's cut out. So
if that is the case, and this isn't on YouTube, in which case we're talking to then we're definitely making a shorter video because fuck, I'm not doing this for another 2 hours.
Yeah. But yeah, we are gonna make at some point on the CM Brothers channel. If you want to check that out, we're gonna make the 2 last Death Note movies. We're gonna review the L movie, and then we're gonna review the 2017 Netflix one. So
yeah, and after that, we're going to talk about like other shows. Take a break from Breaking Bad and Death Note.
we'll
come back to it eventually with some other stuff, but yeah.
We're gonna make a channel update video and talk about what we're gonna do. We have to change some things around because like some of the stuff that we were gonna review like isn't on those streaming services we had. So
but we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Plug in channels. AJ Talent, AJ space TALLENT. I haven't made a whole lot of videos in like a while, but I was editing too. And I'll probably I'll finish them eventually and I'll upload them. So, yeah.
As for me, check out this channel, CM Brothers, and also Wrestling Fortune 44 for all my wrestling channels. So,
yeah. So that pretty much ends the video. And remember, guys, Jesse Pinkman won.
Yep, he won. We will talk to you guys later.
Bye.